Hello and good afternoon to everybody. This is Eddy Fishwick speaking. It's a great privilege to welcome you to episode 2 webinar, continuing the journey to change the way this industry works following our social care in 2016 seminar at Manchester. It's an honour, like I said, to actually join this webinar and host it today in view of changing the way the industry works. I'll just give you a quick overview of the Social Care in 2016 seminar, which is all around involving strategies and methodologies to reach through to outstanding care in our sector. As we mentioned at the time, mentioned since, 8 out of 10 won't use our sector for one of their loved ones. We want to change that by working with you all together, being a catalyst for collaboration and sharing best practice in view of changing it to 8 out of 10 would prefer to use our sector. Moving on, we had some very inspirational speakers. You see a few pictures on the screen now, with a lot of time for working together and networking, talking to people, meeting new people in the sector that all have the same mind that this sector must improve, and we will make it improve. There's no doubt about it. We are moving forward. There are green shoots of improvement all around, and this seminar was specifically to move this forward at a faster rate. As I said, I'm Eddy Fishwick, Managing Director of CAREHOMELIFE. We're a supplier into the sector of medical and housekeeping consumables, mainly with furniture and equipment, but we feel a great need at this time not just to be a supplier but to partner with you to add value back in. What would you say, Joel, who's also on this call?
I'd just like to say thank you to all those who've joined this webinar. I do believe that as we continue to build our network of people that are like-minded to change the way the sector works and to drive social care as a whole forward in the UK, the whole sector is going to change. We've got a little bit later on an exciting event that we're at this week as well. That's all I've got to say at the moment. Thank you.
Good. Well, the feedback from the seminar was pretty excellent. We did an NPS score, a Net Promoter Score, on the event, which scored out at 73, which is absolutely inspiring and exciting, because that's really in a top-class, world-class, outstanding result that you could possibly get as an organisation. On the screen here now you can see a few things that were fed back to us in relation to positiveness, solutions, not getting bogged down with issues, but learning. That's what the event was all about. Not the usual negativity you might find in the sector, but all about positive mindset change, doing more with what we've got. I just want to give you a quick overview of what John Kennedy, the first speaker, gave to us, so that anybody that's on this call that didn't get opportunity to be at the seminar, those that were, can get some fresh learnings from his actual presentation. John Kennedy himself is an independent social care consultant, been in the sector for 35 years. It's great to listen to someone who's been there and done it, got a lot of experience and understanding of the sector, and I want to share a few points with you. He actually wrote a document called the Care Home Inquiry, which produced a very interesting report. Takes quite a bit of reading, but we're going to send you out a copy of this following this webinar with a follow-up email for your interest. So on the slide here, the question, why is the care sector in crisis? Many people ask this question. Not many people can give exactly inspiring answers, because we all know probably what it comes down to. I want to go over a few points he made now, if that's okay. He said we need to make the system a kinder system, so we have time to be kind as we care for people. It's really all about people. It's all about relationships with the staff. It's all about making it a better team. Spoke about the way that really, with all the regulations and the pressure on the sector, you might try and shout at people, tell them they need to be kinder, in the hope they will improve care, but really that's not going to work. To care for human beings, they're not our own relatives, in a nice way, it's a very challenging thing to actually achieve, especially when it's prevented by a lot of paperwork. You spoke about the dysfunctionality of the care market at this point. It's not regulated, so-called, so it's perfectly possible to charge, he said, like £1,500 in fees, pay the lowest wages, make high profits. Not that there's anything wrong with making profit, of course, but this needs to be improved, the system in some way, so there's more uniformity across the sector in the way charges are made. Of course, top-down, outside-in regulations, speaking of, I suppose, CQC, and we as a company are very supportive of CQC, are very sympathetic with the role they play. It's very necessary, but of course, coming in from outside with a lot of regulatory stuff and measuring how we're actually achieving, not always the best way, or certainly not the best catalyst for change. We need to bring in something else to the sector in view of this actually happening. You spoke about what makes a care home outstanding, and these 3 points we need to really focus on. I'd like to make a few notes while we're speaking, but it starts really with a great manager. And what provides a great manager is all around the environment, really, that we work in the home. So it's really the home owners have to really consider this, whether providing the right environment to cultivate the growth of great managers. Have we got adequate resources? A lot of outstanding homes, mostly, if not all, have self-funded residents, which is quite a frightening thing to consider. Consider the different business models we've got in the homes across the country and related to council-funded residents. We can't find outstanding homes with all council-funding residents. Of course, this could be changed, couldn't it, if the government were more sympathetic and would up the fees. Also, a clear set of values which we're very passionate at CAREHOMELIFE about. We speak about honour, integrity and dignity every minute of every day, aligning ourselves with these at all points in relation to our behaviours. Really, it's quality first. We must focus on the quality and what's represented in the values of how we behave, and then the money, the revenue will follow. We must have a value-driven culture. He spoke about the way that if in an outstanding home we've got a good manager and he leaves, or she leaves, he could drop immediately to require an improvement, which quite clearly makes this a frightening proposition. We also need to invest in managers, so we need to have the resource to get the quality. Frightening statistics were 1.4 million are over 85 years old now in the UK, and in 35 years it will be 4.5 million. So we've got quite an explosion of needing care. Have we got the sufficient resources? Are the self-funders enough in our homes to actually produce the money to actually provide the right staff? Social care is a fundamental part of our economy. The government need to recognise this, and there's certain efforts been put in even this very week. We'll speak to you later on this webinar about in the House of Lords to actually put pressure and to communicate the right things on the ministers and MPs in view of recognition of this going forward. And we also need to have a system to support care homes so they're consistently good, he said. John being quite inspiring on this topic, not just a system that is rigid, not to be critical but supportive, and produce therefore the right relationships to produce the right system of care. So we're passionate about helping the government to recognise social care is of strategic, fundamental importance. So I'll just pass over to you then, Joel, to tell us a little bit about Jonathan Cunningham's speech. Thank you very much, Joel.
Thank you. Your Jonathan Cunningham is the owner of Storm Consultancy. He also owns 2 of his own care homes, so he's an authority on the subject of becoming outstanding. One of his key points to begin with was that outstanding in its very meaning is that you have to be different, being truly different, be prepared to put your head above the parapet. It's certainly not being content with being good. There's a very good quote that the good is the greatest enemy of the great. It's the greatest thing that holds us back from becoming great. It's the fact that we're already good. Some scary statistics there on the screen that only 1% of homes are outstanding. Clearly, this isn't enough. So what we'd like to do is just give you a few little tips passed on from Jonathan's speech that will help you to get there. The first of these was networking. So it's important that your home is part of a care network. Expand your contacts, become part of research groups and other networks, take part in conferences. Even things like these webinars can help you in your journey of continual learning which is so critical that you become an enabled and a connected organisation. Don't let yourself become static. Well led is one of the key enquiries that the CQC make, and it's well known that continuous improvement is a very important part of great leadership. The second point was IT. There's a very simple acronym that Jonathan used, which was We Fly GTI, which includes these key points. You must have a good website, you must use email marketing, be on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Google and Twitter, so that if people are looking for a home to put their loved one in, they can find you. But also there's many great things that will be happening in your home, and you need to let people know. You need to be publicising it so the CQC actually know that these things are happening. The third point that he made was around people. People are your most important asset. Get your people right and your systems right, and care will follow. It's one of his points as well was that intimidation and bullying often happens in social care, and it's important to identify these big characters in your team who may be doing this and put them back in their box. The staff supervision sheet was a key takeaway that Jonathan gave, and we will put a link to this on the email following this webinar, which is a very useful document for ensuring that your staff are aware of all the key points that they need to know. One bit of feedback from Nadra Ahmed was that she'd spoken to Andrea Sutcliffe, who of course is the Chief Inspector at CQC, and she said one of the key things care homes need to make sure of is that their staff know what the managers think they know. So when preparing for an inspection, it's critical that your staff are fully aware of their various responsibilities. The fourth point was the heartbeat. So this was having the internal discipline to make these things happen on a regular basis. So this could be regular meetings, one-to-ones with your staff, holding them accountable to drive accountability, repetition being the mother of all success. Things don't change overnight. It's important that you have a regular cadence of making things happen. And then the fifth point, which really encompasses all the previous four as well, is super management. Management has to begin with a vision. You have to have a vision for the home. You have to know where you're going. You need to know what area you're going to be a specialist at. And the vision has to be a compelling statement that brings your whole team together, drives them forward. You also need to have very clearly defined values. Values being the hill on which you're prepared to die, things that are unnegotiables, and these things all together create the culture in your organization, which is the internal compass by which everything is done, whether that's selecting staff, making key decisions, how you actually do your caring, and so on. So that's the key points from Jonathan's speech, which was very informative, and like I said, there was some key takeaway documents which will be sent out now. So up next, we've got just a brief little bit about the next webinar, which really continues from that last point that I was saying about culture and how critical that is. Our next webinar is going to focus on culture change and how you can drive culture change in your organisation. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, Eddie?
Yeah, certainly, Joel. Well, it's all about culture. It's very, very, very important. That's what we're all about at CAREHOMELIFE. We've had to focus on it for quite a few years now in view of improving our team. I'd like you all on this call to be excited about the next webinar. The next one there on the screen, as Joel mentioned, is Culture Change on the 10th of November. 2 weeks later, your brand and your team. 2 weeks later, achieving more, and then wrapping up for the end of the year, communicating digitally, which when Jonathan spoke about We Fly GTI in relation to your website and LinkedIn, social media, all these things, it's quite a challenge for this sector, being that we're all not maybe too proficient in this area, and it's time really to catch up and do things differently in view of not only communicating out but receiving communications in, so we can move forward fast as a sector. So I'd like to pass on to you, Joel, just to explain a little bit about the House of Lords event. Thank you very much, Joel.
Thank you. Yeah, well, this event was this small and medium-sized care providers summit, which was arranged by the National Care Association. We were privileged to be invited down there. It was inspiring and encouraging to see the interest of government. We had the Health Minister, David Moat, which you can see on the screen there, was present, and many other key influences. David Behan, who is the Chief Executive of the CQC. There was Skills for Care, and there was a number of care providers, and obviously ourselves as well as really the main influences in the country on the social care sector. And one of the analogies that was made was that this event was really green shoots beginning to appear in what was seen to be a barren field for so long. The government is dedicated to making social care a strategically important sector, and we're very excited to be part of that journey and that critical change, and we just like to encourage everyone to hold out, because things are about to get better. Thank you. I'll just pass back to Eddy now.
Good, thank you very much, Joe. It certainly was inspiring to be down in the House of Lords late in the evening. Just the atmosphere and the effort and the time put in by like-minded persons in the sector with the same concerns, but also the way that the outcomes were so positive in view of the possibility of moving forward. But the listening ear of David Mowat as Minister for Social Care is very, very encouraging indeed. I think we should be inspired that there are persons listening and there are persons speaking, like National Care Association now did an awesome job down there putting the case forward. It's very, very encouraging to see it all happening, as you say. So just remember, everybody, spread the word in relation to these webinars. Is there anybody else you know in your home, or if indeed another home, that would be interested in this program? Forward on the follow-up email to anybody you would wish to forward it on to. It'll have a register link on there. There's no charge for these. This is completely added value. We're passionate about this sector. We need your help. We need to work together to make this work. So anybody you can forward it round to. Just remember, in your homes, when the follow-up email comes, there'll be a recording link so you can re-watch yourself, or you can forward it on to other members in your home to watch as many times as you like. And trust you're getting value from these webinars. This is episode 2, and we're very passionate about it. Remembering, just please remember that you can make a difference. Every one of us can make a difference to this sector. Whatever sector we're in, it's always the same, but focusing on the care homes, you as registered manager or care home owner, and the way you treat your staff and the way you work with them will make a difference to your staff, and therefore your residents, therefore your family and friends, therefore the 65 million population in the UK. That we need to change this negative perception of 8 out of 10 won't use our sector for a loved one to 8 out of 10 would prefer to. And I look forward to speaking to you again in 2 weeks' time. This is the end of episode 2, continuing the journey, changing the way the industry works. Thank you very much for joining.